Duelosaur Island attempts to make Dinosaur Island a two-player, more streamlined game. In the game, instead of placing workers out, you will be drafting dice and specialists from this central board. The dice have these tokens on, which make each game different, and basically the player who rolls the dice assigns these dice to the tokens. So the dice they want to keep, obviously they put nearer worse tokens perhaps. So this token here would give you either one advanced DNA or two of the shown basic DNA. This one doubles your reward, this one gives you coins or visitors. In this game, as opposed to Dinosaur Island, visitors are abstracted out as victory points, so they're not separate in this game. If you have visitors get eaten, it essentially just reduces your victory points total or your visitor total, which is how you win the game. Also different is on the specialists you have a threat level, because you will take turns drafting either a dice or a specialist, and whatever's left will go up here and dictate the extra threat level. In the base game, or not the base game, in the big game it was just the dice that did that. Now it is the dice or the specialist. So if this research team was left undrafted, it would go up here and add 3 to the threat level. The dinosaurs and attractions are put onto one card. Just as in Dinosaur Island, there is a DNA recipe to build this Spinosaurus. It will give you some excitement, some visitors, and raise your threat by this amount. So this will give you 3 more excitement, 6 visitors at the end of the game, and 3 more threat level. The attractions work a little differently. The merchandise attractions will let you take more cards, more part cards. The food attractions will let you take more money during the income phase, and the roller coaster ones will let you take a reward from the public relations track. Whenever there is 2 symbols, that acts as 2, so you would take 2 rewards, or if it was 2 of the red, you would take 2 more coins. So that's the drafting main board. Let's move that out of the way and move the player board in, which will look very familiar to any of you who've played Dinosaur Island. In just the same way, you track your DNA, except you do not have a limit in this game. So there's no limit stopping you from limit cube that stops you from going up and down. Threat and security work the same way, except nicely they've included this little red one to track the temporary threat, which comes from the undrafted items. So if we hadn't drafted that, it will be 3 higher. Similarly, whenever you play a dinosaur, you play it to the top of your board. So if I move this down a little bit, and you just tuck it under so that you can just see the dinosaur. You adjust your threat and your excitement level on the scoreboard, and if you build it as a adventure, you tuck it underneath the bottom of the board. Really, with the attractions, all you need to see are the icons. At the end of the game, there is a bonus for each set of 3 different icon attractions you get, so food, merchandise, and ride. The scoreboard now looks like this. This is the PR relations, and there is a token which I've forgotten to get out, so I'm just going to use one of these that tracks where you are on a public relations track. The player with the lowest visitor count gets to choose a public relation bonus to the left of this, and then the other player gets to choose one to the left of the one they've chosen. So if I were the player in last place at this point, I could pick that, and then the next player could pick nothing. Excitement level works much the same, except every time you pass one of these yellow triangles, you add more money to your income level. And the visitor phase is basically your victory points. You can play a short game to 25, a medium game to 35, or a long game to 45 points. There's also a solo mode and various other cards, loads of specialists, and the dice can be mixed and matched and used within Dinosaur Island. Let's go see what I think about Duelosaur Island. Duelosaur Island does a good job of streamlining the Dinosaur Island base game into a quicker drafting instead of worker placement 2-player head-to-head game. This does come at the expense of some of the enjoyable extras or physical features of Dinosaur Island being sacrificed in the name of streamlining. And how you feel about that will dictate how much you enjoy Duelosaur Island. The biggest change is that now, instead of the plastic dinosaurs and having to manage your pen sizes, the cards are now split in two, and you have an attraction at the bottom on a card and a dinosaur on the top instead of on tiles. And these will be placed on your player boards depending on what you're using it as. It's really nice to have that choice, to have to decide whether you want this as an attraction, which is potentially going to get you more income and more choice, or as a dinosaur, which is going to get you ultimately more points. The attractions are more attractive than they initially seem if you go for the set collection route as well, which can add up to a lot of points at the end if you get multiple sets of the 3 different symbols. The scoring is now just on visitors, so there's no VP. Visitors don't feed into VP in the same way, and that's one of the areas where you lose a bit of the kind of physicality and perhaps more in-depth theme of Dinosaur Island, because you're actually putting visitors out into the park. And in Duelosaur Island, it's just a case of totting up the numbers and then taking away if any would get eaten if your threat level is too high. I really like the addition of the little red cube that lets you track the temporary threat level from the leftover dice or specialist card. I think that's a really neat addition. The dice are great, same quality as in the base game, and can be swapped in and out of the base game freely. You can use dice from Dinosaur Island in Duelosaur Island in the same way. The specialists and the draft for the specialists and the dice works really nicely, especially with the what they call the plot twists in this one, where each time you play there'll be different plot twists which give you bonuses depending on which dice you draft, and that gives you a real decision. And it's perhaps my favourite part of the game, where if you're rolling a dice, you know that the other player wants rare DNA or more advanced DNA, so you put that dice on the worst plot twist to give yourself access to the best one, which might make up for the fact that they've taken a dice that you might have wanted. So that is really nice and works really well. So that is my thoughts, really. If you liked Dinosaur Island and you want a quicker playing, streamlined version, or if you think Dinosaur Island would be too much for you, then this is a very solid buy. If you prefer 2-player games, prefer the space they take on a shelf and all that jazz, then this is a solid buy. There's hardly any setup time compared to Dinosaur Island. But the flip side of that is you are losing the little plastic dinosaurs, the little meeples, and things like the hooligans that come into the park, and then that having the extra equation of translating how well you've done from those things into your score, rather than just having visitors as your score. But it does work really well, and the drafting is interesting, the cards are done well and offer you a lot of choice. Should you get it? Well, that depends on if you're going to miss the little pink dinosaurs too much or not. So, intimidation factor. I think if I was coming to this straight from nothing, there's quite a lot of gamery concepts to get used to. Drafting cleverly, the double-use cards, all the tracks. The quality is so good. I love dual-layered boards. They're all nice, but it does give this impression of intimidation. Play around, however, and you soon know what's going on. The rulebook, I really don't like Pandasaurus' rulebooks that I've seen, with the exception of Wasteland Express Delivery Service. That one was okay, but Dinosaur Island and Duelosaur Island and Nyctophobia, just so plain. They use a horrible font that is difficult to read, and it really obstructs me reading their rule books. So I would like to see them completely change the way they do their rule books with more pictures. I don't think either game has tremendously difficult concepts, especially for gamers to understand, but I don't want rule books to be a slog to read any more than they naturally are. So there is that. Fun, it's a lot of fun. It does capture the feeling of Dinosaur Island for the most part. yes, you realise it's streamlined and the streamlinings are obvious, but you know that is only going to impact you depending on how much you love your plastic. Would I add it to my collection? For me, no, unless I didn't have Dinosaur Island. I would rather set up Dinosaur Island, even though it's a longer setup, I would set that up, and I think that would work well enough for 2 players for me. I do like my little pink dinosaurs a bit too much. So for me, Duelosaur Island isn't a keeper, but it's right on that. It scores better than some games I keep because I don't have anything else like them in my collection, if that makes sense. It suffers because I have everything for Dinosaur Island, the base game, the expansion, all in extreme editions. So to have Duelosaur Island as well isn't necessary for me, especially given the size of my collection. So what I'm saying is it's a good game that loses out for me because I just have too many games and I've got a similar game in Dinosaur Island. So would I recommend it to anyone else? Absolutely. Give it a shot, especially if you get a lot of mileage out of 2-player games. Would I play it again? Without hesitation. I'd sit down and play it any time. It's easy to set up, easy to teach, especially if you're familiar with Dinosaur Island or gaming concepts. Thanks very much for watching another live Zatu video. We will see you next time.